Okay. I think we're good.
Yeah?
So far, so good.
Oh, fingers
Let's
crossed.
just wait for this thing to disappear. Come on. There we go. All right. Oh, come on, you stupid mouse.
Oh, are we in business?
Well, except for my mouse doesn't want to work.
Oh.
There we go.
Yay!
Oh my god. I think we're finally working.
Fingers are staying crossed for the
Yes,
whole duration of this.
We're gonna pray on this one. Welcome to Torn Book Club, everybody. I see the chat is already alive and well, and we've got a bit of some technical difficulties already as the day begins. I am Saruman, your host, aka Josh, and with me is Eve.
Hello again.
And with us up in the Skype window are Sam, Bryant, and Barb from the Katniss Chronicles. So
Oh, there.
say hello.
Hello. Hello.
Yay, we can hear you. So
Sort of.
had some technical difficulties right before the start of the show. My internet went out completely. So this has been a mad scramble to get everything reconnected, and now it's all going through my phone. So cross fingers, everything continues to work. So
The fact that this whole thing can be run through your phone just proves we're living in the future.
I know, right?
But
But only for 5 minutes.
but only for 5 minutes.
So we'll see how much we can cram into 5 minutes. Before we get started, there are our normal bits of business for the week. We have our book of the month, which I know we talked about last week, but for those of you who weren't here, our book of the month for July is Ready Player One
Yay.
by Ernest Cline. And this is a really fun, geeky book, and since we're in a Geek Culture Month, I figured that was appropriate. And now I can't bring the main screen back. Oh, God.
So close, so close.
God, it's like the universe is conspiring against me
But
today.
yeah, Ready Player One is awesome, and the audiobook is read by Will Wheaton.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Okay, so let me just
Oh,
get the... come on, come on.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
My God.
Oh, this is going to be fun, I can tell.
This is going to be a hilarious episode, I already know. So they say I'm having sound issues. What sound issues, Suzanne? You need to be a little bit more specific. Okay. Still have
That's
80s.
not,
Okay.
that's not our sound issue.
That's not a sound
Tycho
issue.
having 80s music and theme song stuck in her head is not a not a sound. Well, it's maybe her sound issue.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we're having issues because all of this is going through my phone and things are slowing down. So we'll just have to press ahead and hope that the recording is better and you can all watch it on YouTube later.
And we'll all talk nice.
Try all Josh, all simultaneously.
I can't stop it.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, they seem to be frozen to everybody else. Oh, well, we'll just keep pressing along. So welcome to the show. If you could just quickly introduce yourselves to us, starting with Sam.
Sure.
Going down
Sure. I'm Sam. I am the director and editor of the Katniss Chronicles.
I don't think there's more to that.
That is all.
Okay.
I'm Bryant. I'm an executive producer and writer on the Katniss Chronicles, and I also portray Peter Malark.
And I'm Barbra Dillon, and I am an executive producer as well as the voice of Katniss Everdeen.
Excellent. And Eve also played a few roles in the Katniss Chronicles
yes,
as well.
I had 5 parts in part 2 and 3 parts in part 3, so
Excellent.
I just get to keep on dying.
You and me both. I've died a couple of times in part 1 and part 3.
Yes.
If it's dying, then he's in the Katniss ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of death.
There's a lot of that.
So so I wanted to start with a sort of a discussion about the Hunger Games and why you chose to take on the task of doing an audio dramatization of the entire series.
Well, I guess.
Actually, hold, Suzanne, can you turn them a little louder?
I can't. They're as high as they can go.
All right. Sorry, Suzanne.
Suzanne, stop complaining. You're getting this for free. Stop complaining.
We can talk louder.
Yes, we'll raise our volume annually.
From the diaphragm, guys.
The main reason that we started, I guess, an audio drama was that we've seen a few versions. I mean, before even the first film was out, we started putting this together, and so there wasn't really too much of a concept of what the film version was going to be, but we had seen a few film scenes, fan projects, where they had taken a specific scene here or there and done a trailer or a limited scene, and we just felt like we could put our effort into that, but we really wanted to take on the whole project and be able to do a version that was really loyal to the books, because we had no idea how loyal the cinematic version would end up. And audio drama was something that we were kind of dabbling with. We had been doing a podcast where we had a skit at the opening of each podcast, and so we've sort of been creating sort of these humorous, limited audio shorts, and the idea of doing an audio drama didn't seem that far removed.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, sorry, I'm just playing with the audio here.
Let's go.
Yeah. So Jan is now saying you can pay Josh $100 to get better sound. $100 ain't gonna cut it, Jan. Things might be different in Denmark, but here in America, better sound costs quite a bit of money. So that's really cool that you decided to push ahead with this. And what kind of a learning experience did you have, like, doing the Katniss Chronicles? Like you said, you had sort of dabbled in audio drama to begin with, and then sort of took on this huge project. And what were some of the learning experiences you had with this?
Sort of all across the board, I guess. It just was I don't know, it was maybe, for me at least, it was a way bigger project than what I initially anticipated. I thought it was going to be big, but, like, we started out thinking that we would just manually record all sound effects.
Mm-hmm.
And that quickly discovered that would be really time intensive. And we didn't even have to, because GarageBand and other sources have their sound effects available for purchase for relatively cheap, like sound effects libraries and stuff. So then just there was a lot of, like, technical learning that had to be done. We started doing it all in GarageBand, which is a fine program, but if you look at the amount of data that we were cramming into one GarageBand file, eventually GarageBand became not sufficient, and we jumped up to Logic, which we use now. And it's the more professional Apple software, audio software. And so sort of just learning the technical aspects, because I handle most of that, and it was just, I'm not an extremely technical person. I'm not trained as an audio engineer, so it's just finding out what works and what doesn't, and, like, researching online problems that we're having. And then also just, like, we're recording the best sound quality we can in our apartments. So it's like learning that we need to wait for planes and cars to not be going by. Learning to not, dodge dogs barking.
Learning that AC in the summer is going to be a necessary element of not being able to allow you to record.
We can turn our AC off, but if our neighbors are cranking their AC in the dead of summer, that also poses a problem. So we ended up trying to do most of our recording in the winter time so that we weren't even dealing with it. So
yeah, although I think it was the first day that I was recording with you that we had like the one day of rain that we've had in the last 3 years. We learned that we couldn't make that work either.
Yeah, when it starts raining.
And then it would stop, and we'd get like 2 lines out, and then it would start up again. So.
Yeah. And sometimes you just have dripping off the roof, and you're like, I can't stop that. You know?
It doesn't work if it's not raining in the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, one funny thing we're dealing with this time is part 3. Well, we're finishing part 3 now, and we're recording in my apartment, and my apartment has like a nice yard and some trees out there, but part 3 takes place all in like this underground silo.
Right.
So if birds are chirping outside, like previously that's fine, like in the arena or in any outdoor environment, which most of the first 2 parts took place in. But now most of it takes place in this bunker thing, and you can't have like birds in the distance chirping. So
Not really, no.
Or just assume that they're birds nesting
in the
high
sewers.
ceilings of
Yeah. So, we have a question for you guys from Jan. What are your day-to-day jobs, and are you earning money on this, or is this just something you're doing in your spare time?
We're not earning money on it. We're doing this in our spare time. We all have day jobs.
Mm-hmm.
We don't own the rights to this story, so we're just doing it purely as fans. So we're not charging for it. It's all free on iTunes.
Mm-hmm.
We're really not allowed to charge for it.
Right.
And that's fine with us. I think we're all getting a lot of experience and satisfaction doing it.
Yeah.
So in our day job, I'm a dog walker.
I'm a bartender and server.
And I work at a private school.
Okay. So there you go, Jan. Yes, we all have our own day jobs aside from all this wacky stuff that we do.
Do we though?
Yeah, some of us do. I guess I was just where do we go now? So you've been getting a lot of really good publicity with Katniss Chronicles, particularly this time around with part 3. Like you got a trailer premiere on Bleeding Cool, which was that was really cool. Which was bleeding cool. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, it's been really great. In the past, we've had a lot of support from the Hunger Games community, the fan community, which has been really welcome and exciting that people who love the material to begin with have taken notice of our project as well. But to be, for part 3, expanding outside of that and reaching new audiences has been even better and more exciting.
Well, and I also would add, I think there's something that's happening when we first started out, like Hunger Games was very much lumped in with things like Twilight and the YA romance boom. And not that it doesn't have a place there, but I think now 2 films are out, people are more aware of the characters. It has, in some ways, earned its stripes. It kind of reminds me of Buffy a little bit, where like the first couple seasons the show was out, people sort of thought a certain way about it, but once they had a chance to digest it and see what it was really about, a new set of fans that had kind of initially rejected it came on board, and that's happened with the Hunger Games and a little bit with Katniss Chronicles.
Yeah, that's very cool. Oh, I can sort of hear me on your own. Okay. Oh well. We'll just have to deal. So what is it about the Hunger Games that drew you to this? Because I'm assuming that you are all big fans of the Hunger Games.
Yes. I fell in love with the books. I read the first book as part of a book club and just became pretty obsessed with it very quickly and was happy that Catching Fire and Mockingjay had already come out. So I could just tear through the rest of the books in the series and then showed it to Bryant and then Sam, who also really liked it. And I love the character of Katniss more than anything. I think she's a realistic heroine that both boys and girls and men and women as well can look up to, because she's not just strong, she's someone who has weaknesses, and because you're seeing the books through her perspective, you're seeing how someone who is so strong outwardly can have those doubts within them and yet still be a strong, charismatic person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, for me too, Katniss is the character. Katniss is the big draw.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
And so, Ava in the chat had a question for you. How did you come up with the different accents for the districts in the capital? Which is a fascinating question, and I'm sure has a fascinating answer.
In the book, the first one, Suzanne Collins mentions that the capital, a few things about the capital, the people who live in the capital have a dialect. And she mentions a few things about the dialect, including the high pitch
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that they always end on a question.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's like one more thing I can't remember.
There's a few things that just Katniss kind of and Gale talking about.
Yeah, I think they might have mentioned something about like it sounding like a lot of people have a lisp or
Yeah.
something.
And they did talk about
People lisping.
Yeah, the sibilated.
Sibilants.
S's, yeah. So what we did is we really wanted to, because we were doing an audio drama and audio being the key word there, we were thinking this is one of the tools we have. We don't have costumes, so we can differentiate. We can really make a thing of this and differentiate the capital characters using this. So we approached Barb's brother, Paul Packler, who lives in New York and went to acting school with us and is great at dialects. And so we approached him and gave him the notes from the book of the dialect and just asked him if he could fill that out a little bit and create a full capital dialect. And he did, and it's great. It sounds kind of like a Valley Girl dialect, but with a few extra things. And then what we did is for everyone we cast as the capital, as someone who played a capital character, we had them come and do dialect workshops. We did 3 dialect workshops for each part. Mm-hmm. So for part 1, we did 3, and you can come to any of these and work on your dialect. And we had like worksheets for people to work through and paragraphs of dialogue for them to practice with. And so we just worked on those with people, and then we sort of played around with other. We played around with like maps of fandom that people made and just determined where other districts lie, and then what dialects they might have. So, we determined District 12, which is where Katniss is from, is sort of Appalachia. Mm-hmm. So that's we decided to go with that dialect.
I remember we actually pulled something because Suzanne Collins had read the book once, and when she read Katniss's once there was some sort of appearance that people kept referencing online, and when she had read the book aloud, she had done an Appalachian dialect. She doesn't naturally have. Okay. So a lot of people had gone, well, that's what Katniss would sound like, and we mind that. And as Sam's saying, there were several others that we pulled up. We made choices for.
Yeah. That's
and
cool.
There is nothing more fun than doing the voice of a capital character because they are just so fantastically interesting. So, yeah.
And another one that I really liked was the choice to give Finnick sort of a New Orleans type accent.
Yeah.
Which.
Yeah, that's something Paul really wanted to do, and he just sort of pitched it to us, and I think we all just thought it was a great idea, and it really works for that character too.
Yeah. It absolutely does.
Because it was like, I remember we had looked at, the fans were sort of debating whether Finnick in the film was going to be a Spanish-speaking character. That seemed to be like the one that a lot of people were saying, oh, I think it's Spanish, and that Mags, when she's talking in Babel, that's Spanish as well. But then I remember, as Sam was saying, Paul had this other idea that he wanted to do that was more original. And one of the convincing things he brought to us that initially started was a man speaking in Creole. It's like a YouTube video, and it was babble, but you picked, like, you heard these certain words or understood certain things. He was like cooking a dish. I don't even remember, like some New Orleans or Creole cuisine, and then eventually that evolved more into like this, like, I guess it's not completely Creole what he's doing now, but where it ended up was fantastic.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite. So they do these bonus materials, every week or most weeks, and a lot of the time in between the chapters, right? The some behind the scenes stuff. And one of my favorite ones was the one with Paul, where he was talking about how he came up with the idea to give Finnick the Cajun accent and the arguments he made in favor of it, and talking about working on that, which is a really tricky dialect to do. But it really lent itself for Mags too, as far as the Mags babble.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. It's Cajun kind of has influences or its derivation in French. The actress Ren Nami, who plays Mags, really went for more of a French, kind of a French-English combination.
Yeah.
So that
Franglish,
if you will. So that, just like Bryant was saying, that there are words that you can pick out that you can understand from Mags. So it's not really a babble in the sense that it doesn't make any sense, but it just doesn't make sense to Katniss because she doesn't know that dialect, that language.
Right.
Yeah.
So I Stole the One Ring has a question for you, and I guess for all of us, since we've all provided voices to this at some point. Do you have a favorite character to do the voice for?
Yes.
Barbara?
Barb?
No, I love Katniss. It's awesome. It's really fun.
Yeah, I only record for Peter right now, but it's a fantastic character. It's one of the reasons I love the book so.
Yeah. My favorite character is Greasy Say that I do. It's the old woman who makes dogs stew. I'm from Virginia, so it's a fun, like, real caricature. I mean, and it's a fun. She's a fun character to play because she just doesn't care.
Oh, she's awesome.
Yeah.
Brazen.
Sam has done so many voices, like little voices here and there. It's like a drinking game at this point. Like when you listen to the Katniss Chronicles, like, oh, Sam, drink.
Yeah.
Wait, is that Sam? Probably. Drink.
Yeah. That's usually what I end up doing when I'm listening to him. Like, oh, there's Sam. What about you, Eve?
It goes to show how I'm not that good of a voice. It's fun. It's fun. Yeah. What are your favorites? You guys have both played.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't. My favorites are definitely the Capital people because I wasn't kidding. The Capital accent is tremendously fun, and like from my first audition, it was like this is just the most fun I could have is these characters because they're so ridiculous and over the top. Mm-hmm. And so in part 2, I loved the episode where I got to do Marcy Gropa. It was one episode, but it was so friggin' much fun because you can't have more fun than being a Panem 1 news announcer.
Yeah.
But Octavia,
they do sort of have the best dialogue.
But Octavia is also so much fun, even though she's not having much fun this season. But last season it was a lot of laughing, and this season it's a lot of whimpering and crying.
There was a lot of crying so far this season for you.
Octavia's basically like this little pampered, spoiled, entitled lapdog who's like just been completely spoiled. She's very good natured, but she's been spoiled rotten her whole life, and now she's been like thrown into a kennel and abused for months, and like she just is totally unprepared to handle it. Mm-hmm. So I just feel horrifically bad for her, but it's also really fun as a voice actor to play.
Yeah.
Just trying to find that and still sound like the upbeat, kind of peppy, excitable Octavia from season 2 while still expressing
just being in complete trauma.
Just totally traumatized. So.
I think my favorites have to be the motation sounds. Because those were like so much fun to do because like I just basically just completely lost it. Like Because I remember
your voice after all the
after all that, yeah. I remember when we were doing part 1, and I think like a bunch of us were called in to do different mutation sounds just to have some variety. And I came in, and that day I happened to be recovering from a cold, so my head was already stuffed and my voice was already gravelly. So I just like came in and like just barked for like half an hour. I was like, okay, that was fun. But the real fun was definitely with part 3 doing the reptile mutations, because it was almost like bringing a little bit of Gollum into it without giving too much away. And also there was a lot to do with them. Like there, if I remember correctly, the scenes with the lizard mutations that you have in the show are not really in the book because it's from Katniss's perspective, and a lot of what is portrayed in the show is them doing other things, killing other characters that are outside of Katniss's perspective.
In the book, it is like sort of more background kind of stuff as Katniss is fleeing from them.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. So it was a lot of fun, just like snarling and hissing and yowling and screaming. And
yeah. Thanks for all the murder.
Mm-hmm. You're quite welcome.
I mean, no spoilers or anything, but thanks for all the murdering.
You're quite welcome. Yes.
Because that's what those books needed, was more murder, I thought.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so Temple was saying, I'd imagine doing the odd secondary or tertiary character can be a little more fun because you can mess around with them a bit more, less rules with the background characters. And that's true. I mean, that's an interesting question for like Barb and Bryant. Did you sort of feel more restricted because your characters were so big and played such a huge role from the text that you sort of had to like stay within a certain type or within a certain performance?
I'll say for parts 1 and 2, I think that, I mean, Katniss is obviously not a static character. She's changing in every book as it passes, but I think in parts 1 and 2, she very much fit within a type. In book 1, I think that she was still so naive and scared and just being thrown into this insane world of murder and, danger constantly. Whereas, so it was, most of the emotion there was fear or frustration or anger, just facing danger at every turn. Whereas book 2 was more, I think it was more focused on the anger of, why am I being put back into the games? Why am I facing this again? But what I loved is part 3 the most, because I feel like it's given me the most opportunity to have a greater range as an actor and to be challenged in that sense for the character, because she's just, I mean, post-traumatic stress disorder is getting to her because she's dealt with so much and she's lost so many people, and it's just, it's a roller coaster. So it's been the most fun for me so far.
For me, I guess it's not so much that I feel restricted by the character, but I think we love this story so much that I just wanted to be able to. There was a pressure, I guess, to make sure that the integral scenes pay off the way that they did in the book. That what we felt when we were reading the book is coming across in our performances, and I mean, I'm also having a lot of fun with part 3 because it's such a huge shift in character for Peeta. I don't want to give away spoilers, but obviously he's a different character when he comes back after the Capitol torture, and even those moments, it's making sure that they resonate the way that they did when I read them, making sure that I feel like the audience is going to at least feel close to what they felt when they read the book, or at least what we felt when we read the book.
Very cool. Yeah.
Before you go on, I gotta get going.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, guys. I'm gonna have to watch the rest on YouTube later.
Okay, bye.
But have fun.
Okay. So, as Eve packs up and leaves. What was I gonna say? I had a question for you, and hi. Oh, door's locked. You're trapped.
Locked me in. Send help.
The books themselves, folk are all told from Katniss's perspective, but the audio drama and even the movies too tried to you sort of took your own spin on how to expand that perspective beyond just Katniss, and because I know a lot of, I think all of you at some point wrote some episodes, and there's another writer who wasn't with you, Tony. not Barb.
I had no.
Barb did not write. She was in every writing meeting and gave notes, so she was as much a part of it as the authors.
Okay. But maybe you could talk a little bit about your process of trying to expand that world beyond just what Katniss sees, because what I thought was interesting was how you have all these Capitol news announcers coming in and sort of bringing the audience up to speed, almost like a Greek chorus.
Yeah. In looking at the project at the very beginning, we did want to expand out beyond Katniss's perspective, because essentially the book, it's all from her perspective. If we just did that, it would essentially be an internal monologue with a few bits of dialogue, here and there.
Right.
But it wouldn't be much different than an audiobook.
Right.
Or I love audiobooks, but that's not what we were trying to do.
Right.
So we started looking at the best ways to do that, and we thought giving some of the exposition, taking that away from Katniss and giving it to these announcers, like you were mentioning, would be a great way to do that. And so, we have, in all the way from part 1 to part 3, we have announcers that we've created that don't ever show up in the books,
right?
Who comment on, they're commentators. They comment on the games. They're on Fandom 1. And so, we'll cut and we'll do scenes. And it is like, I think you saying it's similar to a Greek chorus is accurate. Mainly, they started out kind of as vehicles for exposition, but we didn't want them to be boring, so we wanted to give them a lot of character.
Right.
They're capital characters, so they, with that dialect, and what we know about the capital, them being very materialistic and very flashy. We had a lot to go on.
Yeah, we both Sam and I don't want to speak for Tony. I know Tony had a big part in this, but Sam and I come from a theater background where we were taught to analyze the text thoroughly and pull from there as much as we can. And there were like these very small references in the book where Katniss might say something like, "Oh, the world famous, or legendary announcer Claudius Templesmith is probably doing a breakdown on my failure here," or something. So it would be like a one sentence clue. And for us, we were like, all right, here's where to start. We can make that a scene that allows someone else to talk about Katniss so that she doesn't have 5 minutes straight of inner dialogue. And then from there, we also began to learn, like, once they get in the arena, or even when they're just being seen by the Capitol, we don't have to have the more audiobook type explanation of, like, I grab this, I walk here, we can minimalize that by allowing the commentators to communicate some of that by saying, "Oh, look, she's running for that," or she just grabbed this item, or even when they're seeing them like exit the train, here come the tributes out of the train. Yeah. And the nice thing is it provided both for us, like, here is how to explain visually, to the audience what is going on, but also here's an example of the Capitol, and we can mine from like corporate news and sporting coverage and all sorts of stuff that's in the modern day world to make it seem sort of real, but still have that sci-fi element.
And what makes it really cool, I think, with part 3 is how in parts 1 and 2, they're mostly commenting on the games, but this time around they're sort of commenting on the war situation that is unfolding, and so there's like they sort of go from like game commentators to political pundits, which I thought was really cool. And also how like they're really sort of interjecting like their own capital censorship, like whenever somebody comes in and says, well, this is wrong, and then like another person will come in and give like this very heartfelt speech about this, that, or the other thing, and I thought that was a really cool way of expanding the world. And I mean, also Katniss of course has her narration and monologues, but I think what's cool now is that monologue and that narration is able to sort of focus more on her own interiority and her own emotional state, so that you sort of go on more of an emotional journey with her than just like her being the narrator on top of everything else, which I think is really cool.
Well, yeah, everything changes in part 3, which is kind of exciting because the story itself is a propaganda war between the two sides, and so like we knew we had to go that direction at this point. Sort of something Suzanne Collins put in there, that you don't really see in the book. You know that they're releasing some of these messages, and that some include, PETA and President Snow, and that they're creating their own from District 13 and putting them out there. But that was obviously, given the commentators we built up, we were like, well, this is the next step, obviously, for that, and it also provides, as you were saying, have like these internal debates on Fandom 1, or showing a variety of sides. Part of that is we knew that it would come off too heavy-handed to be just like, oh, this is the propaganda, this is what you need to believe. When you look at examples of propaganda in our own global history, it's always you have to sell it to the audience. It's completely stupid, so you have to make them believe that you are being fair to them, equal to them, giving them the true story, even if you're not.
Yeah.
Right.
One other thing I'll just point out, he wasn't able to join us today, but Tony Caballero, who's the head writer, it was really important to him and to all of us that these characters that we're creating aren't just, like I was saying earlier, aren't just vehicles for exposition. It was really important to Tony especially, but again to all of us, that they have their own arcs. And it's really cool. I'm speaking to what you were saying, Bryant, and Josh, what you were saying. We really found that these characters' arcs could mirror sort of the book arcs in a lot of ways, and the arc of Panem. Yeah. So you sort of get that through those characters, which I thought turned out great and was really cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, there's only 3 episodes of part 3 that have been released so far, but I mean, one of the things I'm noticing right away is that all the Panem 1 commentary that's going on is a lot more heated, and there's a lot more conflict going on between the commentators, which was really cool. And I agree, it sort of helped to create this image of just how at war Panem really is at this point.
Yeah.
And to sort of like bring that point home.
Well, I mean, obviously Suzanne Collins wrote this from a place where she was looking at reality television and the stories that we've been involved in the United States. And I mean, in some ways it's hard for people to relate when they're thinking about like President Snow, who is a very Machiavellian character. He's obviously got some, even though it's understandable to a degree to his motivations, he's got an evil side to him. There's the Hunger Games, which have this horrific event of children killing themselves or killing each other for others' enjoyment. But when you look at like some of the recent events in our country where we go to a war and half the country doesn't agree with it, or some of the things that have been revealed regarding our own rights being taken away, or things that have been done in the name of our country, it isn't that hard to imagine. Like, while you just see it from Katniss' perspective in the book, there's got to be real citizens there. Capitals are just these big straw men that we've set up. There are people there that obviously are probably debating, is this right? Should we be doing these things? Is there something what we can do in the political arena? But they're dealing with the same things that we do as citizens, where there's limited power, they're in debt, the information is controlled that is delivered to them, So it is a lot more. I think it's a lot more real than people think at first glance when they think of the Capitol, when they're over abundance of character and resources.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's the thing about the Capitol is that at first glance it sort of does come off kind of cartoony, just like too over the top to be real. But then as like you start to explore it a bit more and go on Katniss's journey with it, you start to realize these are real people, and some of them, like Plutarch, haven't really bought into the whole notions that they're trying to sell, while others buy into it wholeheartedly, like Evie. But even she sort of goes through her own transition. So I should point out to the people in the audience who may not be aware, the Katniss Chronicles is now in part 3, and they are broken down by the different books. Part 1 was The Hunger Games, Part 2 was Catching Fire, and now Part 3, which is airing right now, is Mockingjay. So it's almost in line with the release of the movies. Sort of, because Mockingjay is going to be 2 movies.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to have each season complete, like the week before each corresponding movie released. So almost as like a building excitement for the movies, because we, as fans, were very much looking forward to the movies as well. So,
hang on 1 second. Okay. Sorry, my phone was going off. Okay. What? Hello? Okay, you're back. I think it was because somebody called that my phone suddenly decided, hey, I'm going to disconnect. So yeah, this is an awkward situation with this whole internet weirdness, but since we're sort of like steering the conversation towards the movies now, I have to ask, what did you think of the movies, or what have you thought of them so far?
Controversial question.
Yeah, I know.
I'll say I can't speak for these guys, but for the most part, I like them. I will say very diplomatically that I like the second movie a lot better than the first. Mm-hmm. But I think I like the movies a lot. I love that they're getting made. I love that the story is getting attention. So I think they're great.
I would concur with Sam, and I would just say that I think it's understandable that when source material is being moved or transitioned or adapted into another medium, it's obviously something very challenging to do, and we completely understand that, and obviously something we have hours and hours and hours to adapt from one medium to another, and so we're able to be a lot more faithful and include so much more of the story and expound upon so much more of the story, whereas if you're moving 400 pages of a book to 2 hours of a movie, that's really, really hard to do, and you're not going to get everything in. So we completely understand that.
Yeah, we have the time to be as faithful as we can and want to be, and they just don't have that luxury. So it's in a way you can't really. We try not to compare it. You can't really compare it. We're doing something entirely different. They're doing a great job with what they have.
Oh yeah, we do have the, like as Barbara was saying, the luck of constantly we look at scenes where we're like, oh, thank God we can have the scene, and we don't have to be like, oh, the scene takes up 15 minutes, and that's a quarter of, or not even a quarter, but like an eighth of the movie or whatever they have to deal with when adapting this story. And I will say, like, I'm super excited for Mockingjay. Like, the promos that they've put out for Mockingjay Part 1 have been fantastic. I really like the stuff Francis Lawrence has done with, like, just like the extra multimedia stuff around the 2 movies that he did. They did some of that with the first movie, but they seem to really get into it with these latest 2. And the acting for me has been like, even though a lot of these characters have, differences from the physical descriptions of the characters in the book, they've assembled a cast that works really well. And I know you just mentioned, we were watching Catching Fire again recently, you were talking about how well Woody Harrelson has grown into the role. There's several of those like that. What's her name who plays Effie? Elizabeth Banks, fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Donald Sutherland?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, Philip Seymour Hoffman was great, yeah.
It's brilliant.
So, some people are asking in the chat, what are your thoughts, or are you fans of The Lord of the Rings and Tolkien and The Hobbit, since this is theonering.net after all?
I'm a fan. I haven't read The Hobbit in a really long time, and I haven't seen the movies yet. But I really love the story, The Lord of the Rings. I read that for the first time a couple of years ago and just loved it. And the movies, I think, are amazing. So I'm scared of the Silmarillion.
Well, the Silmarillion is probably not going to happen in our lifetime. A movie of it anyway.
Yeah, I love Lord of the Rings as well. I used to listen to the books on tape of Lord of the Rings, and I love the old animated version of The Hobbit that they used to have. And then when the films came out, the Lord of the Rings films were the initial three were just blew me away. I remember it was sort of almost like what we see with comic book movies today. It was a whole new door opening of like, wow, this can be done now, and it works. And I just recently watched the first two Hobbit films with Barbra, and it wasn't the exact same feeling I had before The Rings. I think I bonded more with those films, but some of the scenes were just unbelievable. Like the stuff with Smaug was intense and awesome to see, and Martin Freeman's fantastic. So I mean, there's I think all that stuff is completely worthwhile, even though there's always going to be some detractors out there. So.
Yeah, and I haven't read any of the books, but I have watched all the movies this far. And as Brian mentioned, we just watched the two Hobbit movies. So I think I liked the second Hobbit movie more than the first. I felt like there was just a lot more action going on.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited about just having Martin Freeman and Benedict Cumberbatch again.
Yeah.
It was so great, but all of the performances are amazing.
Yes.
So it's really
Yeah. And now we're getting a new season of Sherlock with an extra episode. So yes.
Very excited about that.
Yeah.
Hopefully there'll be a dragon.
I wouldn't hold your breath on that one. And so I stole the One Ring is saying, okay, I guess I can stick around now. Good answers. Good. You passed the Lord of the Rings smell test. After we spent a good 45 minutes talking about the Hunger Games. So what are some of the other fandoms that you're into? That's it? Nothing else?
Well, we're obviously big into comic books. I say obviously, but we haven't really mentioned it yet. We also work
Katniss
Chronicles at a company called Fanboy Comics that we all co-founded together. It's a geek news website with also a publishing wing. So we self-publish our own comic books. We've got 4 books out so far, and we also do a lot of reporting at fan conventions. We do reviews of comics, movies, plays, music, all sorts of things. We sing, and there are podcasts. We have a few podcasts that focus on different avenues in the geek world. But I know we like Star Wars. I know we're big fans of Battlestar Galactica, the reboot.
Firefly and Serenity.
Anything with Whedon we're pretty much into. But is there any recent? I guess the Marvel films, a lot of the comic book films have been coming out recently.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I'm missing?
I'm a big Western guy, but I mean that's different from you guys.
I like Westerns. I think we're slowly
There's
working Barb into liking Westerns.
I like Westerns just fine, yeah. But now Jan is asking, what about Harry Potter?
Yes.
Yes.
No, not yet.
You're reading the book.
I'm trying to read the book.
Did you read half the book like a year ago?
No, like a long time ago, I read like the first 3 quarters of the first book and then just stopped and didn't read it again. And then I recently read, and then I saw the movie, and then I like a year ago I read the first book, and then I've got all the books on my Kindle, and it's not that I don't like them, I just don't.
It didn't grab you yet?
Not yet. And I'm assured by people that I need to get a little further in before it like really hits me, but I just haven't yet. But I will.
I have to say, Bryant and I devoured the movies. We haven't read the books, but I remember going to the movies like every time one came out to see it because we were really excited. But I have to say
Are you going to mention what I think you're going to mention?
Yes, I am. Right. As much as I love Harry Potter, I love the original Harry Potter, which was The Worst Witch, which was
yes.
an amazing Canadian movie from the 80s starring Tim Curry. And
I remember it fondly.
It has an amazing Halloween sign. You can just Google
Tim Curry Halloween, yeah.
You will have an amazing experience.
It's called Anything Can Happen on Halloween.
Yes.
Yep.
I watch that movie every year for Halloween. It's
yep.
like
it's
religion.
Like you potentially see, like, years from now, you'll hear about this Worst Witch reboot.
No.
Barb will be behind the producing it. Fanboy Cop, that's it.
And, okay, Suzanne has a question for you now. Is the Hunger Games your most favorite fandom, or is it the one that you could do the most with?
Wow.
For me, it's definitely on par with my favorite fandoms. I don't know if I could put it over Buffy the Vampire Slayer is like my lead, and but I would definitely put Hunger Games on equal footing with Buffy. So for me, it was definitely one of my favorite fandoms.
I'm gonna venture a guess that it is my favorite. I think, yeah.
Okay.
I have to go sort of like Bryant. It's up there. It's not. It's hard for me to put it above some of the other things that I really love. So.
What would you put it on par with? You don't have to name everything, but is there anything?
Honestly, I don't know. I guess, you know what, maybe it's more accurate for me to say that I'm not into anything like that. Into Buffy. Like, we've talked about this before. Like, I love these things, but I don't get so...
Yeah, I have a shrine. Sam has a shrine list, but he still loves these things.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just self-conscious that I don't, love these things as much as I see other people loving them. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
You got it in your heart. Yeah, it matters. Where it matters, you know?
And just in case you're not aware, Suzanne is Button Lady Suzanne.
Oh,
yeah. And she made some wonderful buttons for the Katniss Chronicles.
We must say thank you for those.
They are amazing.
They are fantastic.
Yeah, we got a special delivery for our release party for part 3.
Yeah.
We were invited the cast over and did like a cake and a bunch of themed food and stuff, and played the first episode before it aired. Yeah, and Suzanne, thank you. You send over buttons for part 1 buttons, part 2 buttons, part 3 buttons, and then we won some Audioverse awards.
Yes.
So
yeah.
Commemorating.
They're very popular.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Everyone loved them.
This is amazing. So
Thank you. That's so fantastic. So, so I guess we should start wrapping this up. We're coming up on an hour, or shortly. But I wanted to thank all three of you for coming on and discussing Hunger Games, Katniss Chronicles, and all your wonderful geekdom with us.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. Now, where can people find Katniss Chronicles?
Sure, you can find us at our official website, which is thekatnisschronicles.com.
Okay.
Or you can find us on iTunes with the Katniss Chronicles. And as Sam mentioned at the beginning of the show, everything is free online, both on the website and on iTunes. You can download everything. We're also on Facebook and Twitter, and the Twitter feed is @KatnissChron.
And we occasionally do live tweets of the episode on Tuesday evenings. So if you're following along and you like us on Twitter, you can keep appraised when those are happening and join in if you'd like.
And if you're in Southern California and you go to conventions, we started doing panels at the various conventions. So we'll let people know about that on Twitter. So
okay.
And
Well,
in case you guys want to check it out, we also have fanboycomics.net if you for things beyond the Hunger Games.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so will we be seeing you at Comic-Con in a couple weeks?
We will be at Comic-Con. We'll be doing press there, so we won't have a table, but you can definitely find us there, and always feel free to email us or tweet or Facebook us, and we'll be sure to meet up with you.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for coming, and thank you to everybody in the chat. I tried to get to all of your questions, but I might have missed a few, and I do apologize for that. And I also apologize for the technical difficulties that we've been experiencing on and off throughout the show. Had a little bit of an internet glitch, which apparently has been fixed. It looks like my regular internet is back up. This all is being broadcast through my phone's 4G Wi-Fi. So any weird stopping and starting that may have been happening throughout the episode, I do apologize for that. I'm certain it won't be present on the YouTube archive when it goes up, so you can go there and check out anything you might have missed. And so we may have an episode next week. I don't know yet because that's the weekend before Comic-Con. I've been trying to get guests to come on, but they're all in the middle of prepping for the convention, so a lot of them really can't make time. So we may have an episode, we may not. I'll let you know as we get closer to the date if I can get anybody to come by. And if we do have an episode, it's going to be about convention preparation and what to expect at conventions. And then the weekend after that will, of course, be Comic-Con itself, and we'll be broadcasting from the convention floor, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And again, our book of the month for July is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Highly recommend checking it out. It's a fantastic read, it's a fun read, and it's an easy read, and if you are in any way a geek, this will make you happy. This book will make you happy. So thank you all again, and thank you again, Sam, Brian, and Barb, for stopping by and for putting up with us. And I'll see you all later, and never stop reading.